All right.
Lindenwood head coach Jed Stugart, the team coming off a 35-28 win over Charleston Southern, overcame a 21-point first half deficit to pick up the association victory. This week, they will have the home opener, Stony Brook, coming to town. So, Coach, thoughts about your team, and then we'll go to some questions.
Well, I was really proud of our team's resilience. I told our guys all week, you know, how well prepared Coach Gardina's teams are going to be, how well coached they are, how they're going to be ready to go, and we they really got on us early. And sometimes I'm careful to say, like, I think sometimes we fall in these habits like, well, we didn't start fast, we didn't do this, and some of those things are true, but you got to give credit to a team that is a physical, good football team that, um, you know, it's not always just because that almost makes it sound like the other team didn't have anything to do with it, and they were ready to go, and they took advantage of situations, and they got on us early, and so credit to them because they're a feisty, well coached, gritty football team, and we. But I was proud with our team. I think finally in the 21 points before anybody even broke a sweat that we were down, and then we kind of settled down. We finally were able to put a drive together. We got on the board in the second quarter, and I felt a little bit of energy kind of injected in our sideline. I think we're a team right now that's kind of been looking around for somebody to make a play or things like that, and so I was really proud of that. So we took some momentum into halftime, was able to come out, and our goal was to really put a drive together after a stop. But we challenged our defense. We got to get the ball back because they had the ball coming out of the second half, and our defense held and got that, and then we were able to kind of go. I think 35 points unanswered there till the at the end of the game. They got a great throw with 20 seconds left to score a touchdown over the top of one of our corners. We were kind of playing a little bit more soft coverage, and kid made a great play. And so they fought till the bitter end to even have a shot at an onside kick. So two great football game. If you were a fan, a lot of excitement. But I'm glad we were able to escape out of there because that's a tough place to play, and they're a well-coached team.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to some questions. Ben's with us. Go ahead, Ben, with whatever you got.
Hi, Coach.
Ben, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Another exciting one. I know you're keeping
Oh,
us on the edge of our seats.
yeah.
Was there
Yeah, we don't make it easy, do we? Yeah.
was there a moment, whether on the field or in the halftime locker room, on the sideline, that you felt was like a catalyst for this comeback that you guys made?
Well, no, I think that when I said earlier about, we're kind of at sometimes you have when you're trying to really feel what kind of team you have. I think, you know, we do have some young faces on our team that sometimes it's like sometimes we're looking around to see who's going to be a spark, who's going to be a play. I think, you know, it took one defensive lineman, Jesse Smith, that pursued a bubble screen and turned and retraced and hustled and made a great effort play for basically a 1 yard gain. And you think that one little play, but it was such a great play, and it injected some energy into our defense that I felt like that was a little bit of a turning point. It's an example of, like, if everybody's running to the football and doing things they're supposed to do and tackling, but Jesse made a great play that kind of gave a little bit of a spark. And I think, and that's where I feel like defensively the momentum started. So, yeah, I tend to, I've known this team too well. I've known our history sometimes. We've tended to be kind of cardiac kids, comeback kids. I'd like to get out of that. I would like to be a team that starts a little faster, and I don't have to have this amount of stress in the first quarter all the time. But I've learned that not to give up. These kids don't give up. They're going to continue to fight. And so I never really lost because I just felt like if we could just get a drive put together, we can get some momentum. I know that we can be explosive. We can do those things. And that's what happened. But, yeah, sometimes you got to, you got to wonder, okay, when's this going to happen too?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought there was times it felt like Nate Glantz just kind of willed the offense into putting some drives together and
Yeah,
scoring some points. Um,
there's no
what
doubt.
what makes him the right leader for this group for this offense in particular?
Well, he leads by example. I always say, leadership's all about credibility. And so, he's a guy that's going to put his head down. The kids see that. He's going to get first downs. He's going to dive in end zones head first. He's completely ignored me for 2 years to slide and run out of bounds. And so I've given up on that. That's just who he is. And the kids respect that. He's a competitor. And I think he's accountable. He doesn't point fingers. There's obviously times when maybe a sack or an interception might not be his fault, and we see it on film. But he's the type of guy that's not going to. He's not. He's going to take. He's going to kind of take the responsibility for that. I think that's what makes him a great leader. And I think he brings a calm in the storm a little bit. I think he keeps a very even keel. Throughout the game. And I think that he's been great in leading our offense, and guys kind of rally around that a little bit. So, that's just what makes Nate who he is.
Yeah. And then the last one from me is just defensively to get hit by that haymaker, 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. Jacob Waller ends up with 17 tackles. I think it was 8 straight possessions that held them off the scoreboard to kind of allow the offense to get rolling again. Maybe what you just saw out of your defense as a whole that allowed them to kind of regroup from what happened at the beginning and to make stop after stop there to win the game.
Well, great adjustments by Coach Inam and his defensive staff at halftime. But the problem is that the 3 explosive plays that ended up being touchdowns were all technique and missed tackle deals. They weren't schematic issues. It was, when you're in a zone coverage, as a defensive back, you stay as deep as the deepest receiver. When you get your eyes locked in the backfield on a quarterback that breaks the pocket and you decide to let somebody get behind you, well, that scheme doesn't fix that. It's trusting in what you're supposed to do in your assignments. I think just the getting back to doing the basic stuff that you're supposed to do, and starting to tackle and emphasizing that, all of a sudden we were able to start playing defense like I feel like we can play. Because as a coach, if those touchdowns are just bad, either bad adjustments or they're schematically you're not sound and you're beat and those things, that's a problem. But when you see that these things are just missed tackles or misfits, they're misalignments, it's just get those things corrected. And that's what, but I think our effort, all of a sudden, I think we got tired of it and kids started playing with a better effort. We reminded them of the effort in the App State game, and they came out with a passion to say, hey, we need to start getting back to playing with great effort.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Ben.
Coach, I want to ask you about, you're one of the least penalized teams in the FCS according to the rankings, and Coach Gardini had said earlier they had 11 penalties, and I believe you only had 2 or something. Can you talk about just that aspect and winning that way?
Well, I think you achieve what you emphasize. I think it's something we really stress that in practice. So we call holds on each other in practice. We don't let them fight in practice. We don't do a lot of these things because you play like you practice. I think it kind of resonates and kind of trickles over into the game when you emphasize those things. And it's kind of like in basketball, you call your own fouls. So, our DB coaches are calling, pass interference on their own players, and the receivers are, and vice versa. The offensive line coach is calling holding on his own players in practice. So it's, I think, I think we want to be a disciplined team, and I think, that's what we strive to emphasize, and to be fair, some of those, we've had some penalties that were declined too. So there's some things we still need to clean up. So, might show 2 on there, but there was some, keep a couple penalties that, ended up being declined that we still got to clean up. So, just to be fair, on that deal, we're not, but I think that attributes to that, just to be honest with you.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time as always. Best of luck this week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.